Welcome to 7 Days to Die. This barren landscape will become our home for the next 7 days, filled with plenty of undead monsters driven by bloodlust. Will you join us, or will you crumble at the challenge as many have before? Today, we're switching it up and surviving 1 week in 7 Days to Die. This video is a slight trial run, as I want to make 1 month in 7 Days to Die, but I need to test the waters. So, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and a comment down below, and tell me how you felt. Obviously, if you're not subscribed already, you should go ahead and do that. Anyways, 7 Days to Die is a zombie survival game, where every 7 days a horde of zombies will come to try to kill you. Of course, there's zombies throughout the rest of the game as you explore the world, but the main challenge is creating a base to withstand the onslaught of the undead. I set up a server with my friend Grayscaped, his links are all in the description, and we just survived. In the future, I hope to do more challenges, but seeing as both of us are complete noobs to 7 Days to Die, we need something a little more simple to start on. I also want to give a huge shout out to Glock9 Gamer for inspiring me to play 7 Days to Die and make videos out of it. He's a great YouTuber, and he's doing well. You should go check him out. Now, with all the rambling out of the way, let's hop straight into the gameplay. As soon as we spawned in, the first thing we needed to do was get all of our starting tasks done to unlock the trader location, and also to get the free 4 skill points and invest them into our starting upgrades. We spawned in the snow biome, so the first thing I started doing was grabbing plant fibers, small stones, and getting wood. I got insanely lucky when I went over to a broken car and searched it to find a level 2 blunderbuss right off the bat. I searched a nearby house looking for more resources while finishing up some of my tasks. The house didn't have much value, but as I finished up my quests and looked for where the trader was, I found that Gray was extremely close to it as well. This told us that we were near the main city of the green area, Navezgane. We would have easy access to meds with the hospital nearby. Lord knows we'd need it. Dyersville was going to be insanely helpful. After a good old game crash, I invested my newly achieved skill points and began the run towards Gray and the trader. I met Gray just outside the working stiff tools building between the town and the trader and blitzed looting through it. I pushed through and killed all of the zombies before going through and looting as well. I'm still taking my time getting used to how the club works in this game, and actually got even luckier to find a blunderbuss in a loot bag. This world is already treating me well, and I mean, of course, instead of giving the blunderbuss to Gray, I decided to keep it to myself. Finally, I killed everything in the POI, and went back through looting the rest of it, finding plenty of stone tools, but mostly stuff to scrap. After finishing up looting the working stiff tools, we began the short walk to the trader, where we quickly checked the utilities and found a working workbench. We'd need that coming up pretty soon, and having a working one at a central location would make this a lot easier. I went to check what I could buy and sold a few items. Nothing much to buy, and I didn't have any coin anyways, so I just grabbed a clear the area quest, and then made the run to the quest POI. It was a simple house in the middle of nowhere. After arriving, it was time to run through and bop a bunch of zombies in the head, consistently trying to tell Gray to follow the POI. Instead, he just keeps trying to bash through a wall. We finally find the end of the loot, take everything, bash the final bird to finish off the task, and instead of heading right back to the trader, we decided to just raid a small house on the way back as it was nearing nighttime. There wasn't anything notable loot-wise other than some ammo and a few mods to add to our gear. We put down a campfire, started cooking up some food while we waited for the night to tick away. Put our bedrolls down just in case, and just sat around the fire for the whole night. There really wasn't much anything else to do, as we didn't really know too much about the game to focus on other nightly tasks until we had better gear. The early game is so important for the foundation of your playthrough, and we were still learning, so we just harassed each other for the entire night. Around 3:30 in the morning, we ran towards another house so we could loot it as well. It was a relatively small POI, so it wouldn't take nearly as long to loot this area. We made our way quickly through the POI and found ourselves at the main stash, where all we collected was some basic ammo, and then we headed back to the trader to collect the quest reward. On the way out, we found a bugged out zombie and decided to stab to death. Unfortunately, that resulted in me accidentally stabbing Gray. By 5 a.m. we began the run back to the trader, but along the way my greed got me distracted and we found a tower to loot really quickly as well. Didn't have too much in it other than a main stash at the top, so Gray and I quickly ran through the tower and looted the basics there before heading out. Other than a few zombies and some basic loot, it was time to head out. We finally finished our way back to the trader, and now that we were back, I collected the quest reward, which happened to be an armor pocket mod. This would come in pretty handy as it adds an extra slot to your inventory before you become encumbered. I need to learn how to craft these but for early game, one was gonna help a lot. I sold some items and had enough coins to buy a pistol, so of course I did because I'm impatient. And then of course Gray and I got distracted by injuring each other for a second and now we're on very low health. Unfortunately, at this point, I restarted my recording in order to make sure that I didn't get corrupted, but instead this next recording got corrupted, so I have lost the footage for the majority of day 2. Fortunately, instead of losing all of the first 2 days, I only lost the second day. So it's definitely better. All we really had to do was collect more resources and loot more houses. You're not missing much. The recording picks up off where we started off in the village near the trader we had spoken to, Dyersville. Gray found a house he wanted to hang out in for the night, so we looted it quickly and then sat up on the roof. I decided that I wanted to shoot randomly just to piss him off, which of course also attracted a ton of zombies. That somehow got up top, along with a dog later on. Both of these managed to get a few hits on me, but the angled roof made it really easy to knock them back down. Also, while we were up here, I went ahead and put some points into skills. With the night nearing an end on the morning of day 3, I entered the basement of a nearby house to start looting some more. I was mainly looking for ammo, food, and stuff to sell to the trader. Pummeling zombies as I go, there were plenty of crates in the basement to loot. I found a decent amount of food in the kitchen, and by hour 6, I had already found the main stash. In medical supplies, I found some steroids, which I took to max out my inventory. This would allow me to loot everything and not worry about becoming encumbered at all. Around hour 7, I exited the house and I then made a run back to the trader to get another quest and sell everything I didn't need. There wasn't much to buy as the trader doesn't reset until tomorrow. Over the night, I had added points into Grease Monkey, so I was looking for stuff to build a bicycle to get around easier. After looking through its inventory, I began looking for a passing gas to raid to find more stuff for the bicycle. I decided to wait on the trader quest as it would be in the opposite direction. Instead, I went further into the wastelands, where on the other side would be a small gas station to loot. Once I was there, I quickly looted all of the store shelves along with the crates. I found a wheel in one crate. I made my way to the roof where the final loot was, killed a few zombies up there, and began working through the boxes. In one of the crates was actually a bike chassis, which is insanely lucky because now we only need the handlebars and one more wheel. I began looking for the materials to craft those pieces on the way home. I took apart cars looking for bottles of acid to make the other wheel. Cars would also give me short iron pipes, which I needed for the handlebars. I finally had everything I needed and began running on the way home. Of course, not before getting distracted at a small army camp. Quickly ran through and looted it despite not having much other than some Molotov. I grabbed the loot and headed home. For real this time. Okay, actually I got sidetracked again. And found a much larger army camp. I slogged through this one, completely encumbered this time, but I wanted as much loot as I can. I really am a goblin. It provided plenty of and water, which I consumed as I continued to loot. I approached the final stash in the basement, insanely slow at this point as it's also nearing night. Fortunately, just before the 20th hour, I found the main stash. It was just a few crates and marginally better tools and some armor upgrades. I finally stepped back, headed home, and this time it's for real. Gray and I decided to set up on top of a passing gas nearby, so while I was out doing that mission, he was setting up a small base on top of the roof. I got back after it turned night and unloaded my inventory into a chest I had placed onto the ground. I kept the stuff for bikes and my coins, as I was going to need to go to the trader in the morning to check the restock and craft the bike, as there was a working workbench there. I also allocated my points through some skills some more. Around 3 a.m., I decided to start off day 4 by running back into town to start looking for a new house to raid before the trader opens. I actually found a working workbench in the red house nearby. It's even closer to our base until we find our own. I started to loot the house a little bit, but ended up falling through the floor and having to kill a zombie and push through the POI a little bit to help me find a way out. I guess this is the house I'm just looting this morning. There were a few zombies actually, so I continued pushing through to the main stash on the top floor. Found an iron spear, some nice books, another armor pocket mod. Personally don't use spear too much, but later on I ended up giving it to Gray. Put on all of these mods after looting and realized I forgot my lockpicks when I I tried to open the gun safe. I was not about to break through that with a stone axe. After finishing the house, I broke through a window and hopped out. Walked back to the garage where I began putting together the bicycle. Crafted the handlebars and then the bike. They didn't take too long to craft at all. I dropped it on the ground and began moving towards the base again. In style this time. There wasn't much purpose going back to the trader now that I already had the bike, as I didn't have anything to sell really. So Gray and I decided that today we would tackle the hospital. In hindsight, we might have wanted to wait to fight it so that we could have gotten better loot, but Gray had a bad infection and needed antibiotics, so we figured this would be the best way to deal with it. This POI is massive though, and would easily take more than one day to complete, especially as we were starting in the afternoon. It shouldn't take more than 2 days though, so we killed plenty of zombies and looted plenty, using every single vending machine we could possibly find. Kept slamming mega crushes, especially in areas with lots of zombies, so I would just sprint down hallways bashing whatever crossed me. Occasionally Gray too, but that's not important. After clearing the bottom 2 floors, it was nearing night, so we decided to head back to drop off the loot and raid the small tech store on the other side of the road from our base. Nothing much of interest, but plenty of things to sell to the traders. After finishing up looting it, I decided it would be a good idea to climb on top of the billboard between. Now this seemed to make some issues because for some reason it wasn't structurally sound, and right as I placed a wooden frame on top of it, the entire thing crumbled to the ground, crushing me under a pile of iron rubble. I blame this on Gray stabbing me because I was on low health, which is completely unrelated to me stabbing Gray. Anyways, fortunately, we aren't resetting after a death as we are relatively new to the game, and because it's kind of a dumb way to die, we didn't really think too much of it. After recollecting my gear, we placed an office chair at the top of the house for no reason. On the morning of day 5, I hopped down to the ground, jumped on my bike while watching Gray walk. What a peasant. I went straight back to the hospital to finish looting. This was the start of the recording session, and I kept missing my swings. I blame it on not being warmed up. I didn't realize Gray also wasn't taking on the hospital, as he didn't know I went straight back there. Even though the whole time he was only 100 meters away and could see exactly where I was. That's not the point though. Started slapping zombies silly, and I had some significant trouble with the birds. I ended up finding an absolute massive horde of zombies just chilling inside one of the rooms, and had to take my time. Other than that, it was pretty easy to take everything else on. I also finally found a hoodie to wear instead of the terrible plant fiber clothing. Gray also wanted to start farming, so I grabbed the dead bodies and bags to get some rotten flesh for that. I was starting to near the top floors at this point, with each floor getting smaller and smaller towards the top, making them easier to clear. Did have more sections outside though, which always means more birds unfortunately. And boy did that mean birds. Every section outside felt like it had 3 birds flying at me. Fortunately, as I got higher into the tower, it felt like I was finding better and better loot stashes. And finally, I step up to the helipad on top, with plenty of large zombies. So, of course, I crouched down to get the extra sneak damage multiplier and just started popping heads. Fortunately, they didn't all wake up at the same time, instead one by one, so I could take care of them insanely easily. After pistoling down all of the zombies on the roof, I dropped through the broken opening at the top to find myself at the main stash. Forgot lockpicks again, so I'd have to come back for that armored chest. Other than that, there was still tons of loot to grab. After collecting all of the loot, I broke back up through the roof and headed back down towards my bike. I stored some of the loot and began the ride towards the trader, where I grabbed stuff out of the bike that I wanted to sell. After selling everything I could, I did a quick look through her inventory without finding much of interest. I stopped at the vending machine on the way out and bought any food that was in there. Next, it was time to head north in the snow biome where I would find my next quest location. A pretty decent sized house. Started in the garage and jumped into the attic where I found the first zombies. Following the attic, hopped into the next room. After continuing to fight through and through, I found the final room with some basic loot. Sorted out before going back, grabbing the quest item, and then I was getting out of there. I went back to the house as it was nearing nighttime by now to organize the loot I had collected over the course of the day. I went through and put some more points into mostly all into intellect and advanced engineering, so we could have a workbench and a forge at our house. I crafted the workbench and put it down in the second floor of the base, away from where I would be fighting the horde. Gray had put his points into better resource collecting, so he was able to make an iron pickaxe, which he crafted up to and gave me one. We also put down a forge, and in the morning I wasted no time and left to go turn in the quest at the trader and get a new one. I was offered a lot of Molotovs, so of course I took those before looking through our inventory to find some more and selling off everything I didn't need to. I didn't find anything I wanted, so I just took the closest quest, which happened to be a buried supplies, only 400 meters away, a quick bike ride. After digging around for a solid hour, I found the box with the quest item and hopped out quickly, as I knew a bunch of zombies would spawn as soon as I opened the chest. After killing all of the zombies, I rode straight back to the trader to be rewarded with some first aid bandages and to try to sell off anything I didn't need from the buried supplies. There was a level 3 AK, but we didn't really need that good of a gun off the first horde, and I didn't have enough coin anyways, so it didn't matter. I took one more quest and headed in that direction again. I'm trying to unlock the level 2 quests and the other trader location so we can make more money and get better loot from our quests, which requires us completing 10 quests in the first place. Once I got there, I realized it was a relatively small POI, but I was insanely lucky to find the hunting rifle schematic in the mailbox before starting the quest, which resets the building. The front door was unlocked, so I ran straight in and started ripping stuff apart and opening cupboards. First, all there was to fight me was a crawler, but more and more zombies started showing up, although no more than easily managed. I was pushed up to the rooftop where I hopped out and was greeted by a bird before hopping back into another window where the final 2 zombies rested next to the final stash. I killed them, took the uninteresting loot, and hopped out before running back. Back at the trader, I was greeted with 120 shotgun shells, which I wouldn't be able to use yet, but it was still going to come in handy when we did get shotguns. I sold the few pieces of loot and then grabbed the final quest. Another clear the area location, this time in the desert. It was actually the same passing gas that I had raided much earlier, so I knew the layout of this one. I'll skip straight to the main loot because you've already seen me complete this location. There was actually some pretty decent loot, at least some items that would sell for a decent amount, so I scrapped what I could and changed around my gear before heading back to the trader, where I was given 200 rounds of 9mm. That's what I'm talking about now. I got one more quest because it wasn't too close to nighttime. I headed back into the snow biome where I would loot it. I probably wouldn't make it back to the trader in time, but I definitely would be able to loot it before night. It was a poppin' pill, so it had plenty of meds. Because of this, I decided to loot the whole thing once before starting the quest, so I can loot it twice. This is a really cheaty way of getting more loot, but when it's a POI like a poppin' pills or a gun store, I don't think there's any way for me to not do this. Anyways, I blitzed through the zombies to the main stash of the roof before going back through and looting after the fact. I also found a large group of zombies trying to check out. I took them down, finished the looting, and then started the quest. The POI reset, and I did it all over again. I completed the task around hour 20 and was starting to turn into a loot goblin, so I decided to keep looting and go to the passing gas just up the road a few meters. I cleared out my inventory as much as I could before stepping into the small passing gas and bashing the sleeping zombie on the ground, looting the shelves quickly. This gas station also had a garage with a workbench that I took apart for the resources. It had some crates that I broke open before going up to the roof where a few zombies and a bird. They were an easy fight before grabbing the small stash and heading back to the base this time. I was very encumbered, but as long as I was on the bike, I would be able to get away from any zombie chasing me. So I began my ride back to the base where I helped Gray reinforce the building for the upcoming horde as it was officially turning to day 7. I started cooking up some iron in the forge and got together the resources to make a baseball bat. Although I wanted to put one more point in a pummel Pete, so I decided to make the bat before the start of the horde the next day and wait on it. This morning I wasted no time going to loot, so I headed out at 3:30 and went to loot some POIs. I went to a construction zone where I had a bear at the end of it. I specifically wanted to fight this as Gray wanted more rotting flesh to make more farm plots. I also wanted to grab all of the cement and cobblestone that I could from this location. After collecting all of the resources there, I then headed back to the base quickly to give all of the loot to Gray. I had also forgotten all of the items I wanted to sell in the chest, so I needed to grab those before going back to the trader. The trader resets today, so I grabbed everything, went there, collected my quest reward, and sold a ton of items. She rewarded me with the fireman's book, which I didn't care for too much, but I took it anyways. Sold all of the items I wanted and took a double barrel shotgun, so both of us could have ranged weapons. I also bought some meat just to have food. It took one more quest that I should have time to do before the horde. It was back down in the desert, near the passing gas, so I rode there and entered the very interestingly shaped house. It took me straight up to the attic, where it then dropped back down into a different room that had a floor give out below. This house was definitely a crack house, with chem stations and med piles everywhere. I killed everything before finding the final loot and killing the zombies before heading back to the trader. I was given another fireman's book that I read before heading back to the base and finding a random bear on the other side of the bridge that I recklessly took on. We needed food, and this would be a great way to get a ton of it, but I forgot how much damage they can take and how much they can do, because he got a few hits on me and I ran out of stamina. I thought I was dead there, but I let him into the water where I put the final 2 shotgun shells into him and began cutting him up. After my kill, I went straight back home as it was getting late. Anyways, we had a pack of zombie dogs come out of nowhere, And of course I took shots as we still needed plenty of rotting flesh, so Gray and I killed all of the dogs and started chopping them up, went back upstairs and put all of our extra stuff away. There was plenty of iron in the front from where the billboard fell down and killed me, so I went out there with a pickaxe to mine all of it. Easily over 1,000 pieces of raw iron here. I had also crafted the baseball bat, so I threw my mods on it, finished mining the iron, and by this time, it was time to fight the Horde. At hour 22, the zombies started rolling in, but I'll leave the live commentary for that.
Is the answer. So I was gonna do it by the front door to see it better.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that fucking big growling sound? Defense.
Yeah. Dog.
What?
I hear a dog.
You know, I know I'm cold, but I'm not really cold.
I'm not exactly worried about how cold I am right now.
Yeah. You know, I'm not worried about my toes, you know.
I'm always worried about toes.
Alright.
They're still trying to. They're just trying to break this one block still, dude.
Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna repair it up and replace the bottom block with cobblestone so that they try and go for the front.
Yeah. Hi.
Fucking, come on. Let me place the block. Yep. That didn't work because now they're dead bodies there. So they don't see it as the weakest point, but if you keep it open, they'll go to it. Okay. That'll do it. That's probably why it's closed. Probably just killed everything. That'll be it, mate. Oh, I swear to God, mate. You cheeky bugger. It was a super short horde, but that's to be expected, so next time it's going to be a lot more interesting. We will totally up the ante, have longer videos, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out the other videos if you're into Minecraft.